This week was better than last week for me. Last week was hard. Like I said last Sunday, last week I excelled at pretending like this wasn't happening. I excelled at numbing myself to the pain of all of this. But this week my feet drug a little less to church. My feet drug a little less to prayer. One way that I'd like to grow in this coming week, spend less time trying to divert myself or distract myself, and more time entering into the stillness and the silence. Why am I so eager to divert, to distract myself? Why am I so eager to avoid silence and stillness? For me, and I think the same is probably true for you, when I'm silent, when I'm still, I have to encounter God's delay. That He's not doing what I want Him to do right now. God's silence. That He's not speaking how I'd like Him to speak right now. God's absence. That He's not present the way I'd like Him to be. His delay. His silence. His absence. In a mysterious way, we can suffer these with Him, and that changes us, or we can suffer these without Him, and that just hurts. We're not the first, and we won't be the last that experience God's delay, God's silence, God's absence. Let's turn to our gospel today for insight. In our gospel, we meet Jesus and his three friends, Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. These are not Jesus' acquaintances, but his best friends. These are folks who deeply love each other. Martha and Mary send word to Jesus, Lazarus is sick. How does Jesus respond? He delays. He delays for 2 whole days. While Lazarus is actively dying, hoping for Jesus to arrive, while Martha and Mary are watching their brother die, hoping for Jesus to do something about it, Jesus delays. He doesn't do what Martha, Mary, and Lazarus want him to do. The gospel suggests that the reason Jesus waits, the reason he doesn't rush to Bethany, is his love for Lazarus. Now, Jesus loved Lazarus, so when he heard that he was ill, he remained for 2 days in the place where he was. Jesus loved Lazarus. Lazarus is sick, so Jesus delays. At the end of these 2 days of waiting, Jesus knows Lazarus has died. He tells his disciples about it, and he says to them, I am glad that I wasn't there. He's glad that he wasn't there. Finally, Jesus leaves for Bethany. As he travels, Martha and Mary are mourning, grieving. Lazarus is dead. Jesus didn't come. Jesus isn't here. He's not present like they want him to be. He's not speaking how they'd like him to speak. Jesus arrives. And Martha, Mary, and the Jews, they each have a similar reaction. Martha, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Mary, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. The Jews, could not the one who opened the eyes of the blind man have done something so that this man would not have died? In other words, Jesus does not let those whom he loves suffer and die. He doesn't delay with those whom he loves. He doesn't conceal his presence with those whom he loves. He's not silent with those whom he loves. And that's just not the case. It is precisely those whom he loves, precisely those whom he cares most about, that he allows to suffer. that he allows to experience his delay, his silence, and his absence. Jesus delays. He is seemingly absent from Martha, Mary, and Lazarus in their need. He is seemingly silent to Martha and Mary in their grief, precisely so that they are drawn into the mystery of his suffering and death. His delay, his absence, his silence are the road into that mystery. And that suffering leads exactly where Christ said it would. All along, he was saying, this illness is not to end in death, but is for the glory of God, that the Son of God may be glorified through it. I am glad for you that I was not there, that you may believe. If you believe, you will see the glory of God. Christ's delay, his absence, his silence lead us into the mystery of his suffering. That suffering leads to the revelation of God's glory. This Lent, God has given us a unique experience of his delay, his absence, and his silence. Jesus could have left right away for Bethany and healed Lazarus, but he didn't. Jesus could end this epidemic right now, but he's not. Because this experience of God's delay, God's silence, God's absence, it leads us to share in his suffering, to share in the suffering of the world, and so see God's glory. What does this mean for our week? Well, I'd say most of us are struggling because God's not present the way we'd like him to be. Or we can't be present to him the way we'd like to be. In the midst of this experience of God's absence, name some ways that he is present to you and to your family. God is not stuck in the tabernacle. He is not bound by the church building. There's literally nowhere you can go that God can't be there as well. While God is most especially present in the Eucharist, while he is most especially united to you when you receive him in Holy Communion, the Eucharist is not the sole way that he is present to you. We believe that we have become tabernacles through our baptism, that the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit dwell in us. We believe that where 2 or 3 are gathered, Christ is there. We believe that Christ is present in his word. We believe that when we feed one another, clothe one another, visit one another, that we are feeding, clothing, visiting Christ. And so let's feel the pain of the separation from Holy Communion, but let us not dare downplay the presence of God in our souls, in our gatherings, in the Word, and in the poor. Jesus delayed. He was absent. He was silent for almost a week, so that Martha, Mary, and Lazarus could experience a foretaste of his glorious resurrection. What glories the Lord has in store for us if we enter into that same experience of God's delay, absence, and silence. The glories of a renewed relationship with our spouse. The glories of a new fatherhood, a new motherhood. The glories of a new life as a son or daughter. New life for those in holy orders or consecrated life. New life as a single person in the church. This week was better than last week, and next week's going to be even better. Let's excel, not at distracting or diverting ourselves, but at encountering our God, who delays out of love for us.